What's going on, guys? Winter groups have been made for the Winter Major in LA. And honestly, I didn't think I was going to have to make a video for this one, but a lot of people are calling for it. A lot of people just want to know the methodology behind it. Now, again, I don't necessarily make the groups, but I can kind of walk you through the methodology or how I consult with psionics to figure out all these groups and all that stuff. So, let's just break it down. There's not too much to this, and I'm going to say that right now. It's really not that complicated for the first time in my life. So let's just go straight into it. I'm going to talk about a couple things. Let me actually, I have some tabs open that let me just close. Divine Tower, don't need that for Dark Souls. I was wondering why the door was closed, and I was like, oh, now I know why. Okay, so let's just close a couple tabs here. And let's get into it. Let's move on to scene 2. Here we go. It's going to be a little smoky around me because my green screen's not perfect on this one because I haven't really made this one up yet. But let's talk about why the seeds are the way they are. So first, here's your groups. So final groups are these. You got E1 and, whatever. Like, we have Queso Phase, V1, Detonator, Energy, Endpoint, Renegades, Furia, G2, BDS, Secret, EG, and Dig, SRG, Pioneers, and Space Station. Weighted 34 across the board, so equal groups. Obviously, these are a little different than what we normally work with in the winter split, so we're going to look at perfect groups, and then we're going to look at why we changed some things. First, though, we're going to go over to seeding. Seeding was done based on the fall major. As you can see here, we'll just get rid of the swap so it doesn't look as confusing. So, seed 1, EU1. BDS won the whole thing. Seed 2, Energy. Then your seeds, what we would normally do in Swiss is you go by... If you tie in the bracket, we go back to your Swiss to see where you landed, and that's how we seed you. So NA2 gets the next one with Phase. EU2, Semper goes there because they were 8th in Swiss. Then 5 through 8, same exact thing. That is Dignitas because they had the perfect Swiss. Then Mina, who was the 3rd seed. Then Complexity at NA3 was the 4th seed. Then EU4 was Endpoint's 7th seed, I believe. So that's how that all played out. Next up, we'll go down to the lower bracket. Here's where it gets a little complicated, so I'll bring up the actual bracket. Let me pop that in. So really quick, I'll just show you these again. As you can see, like Endpoint was number 7, but Semper was 8, but they obviously beat Dignitas, so they moved into that top 4, but that's why they lose out the Phase. Dignitas wins the 5th seed because of their excellent Swiss, so on and so forth. So that's what we decided to do there. Next up, and I'll always say the Royal We, that's just easier for me to say. It's not necessarily like every decision is me and Psionics working together. Like, the esports team does most of this. I just look through it as well at times. So, next up, looking at the bottom seeds. Now, you base it off of your Swiss. Normally, it would be initial seed is the final qualifier, but that's kind of weird in the fall major where, like, there is no real initial seed. Like, there is one that we had to make up to make things, but it's like, that has no value unnecessarily. But, like, you have to see them somewhere, right? So, the esports team, they seeded Ground Zero and G2. They obviously tied exactly, so they seeded OC above G2. Now, I'm not sure the exact reason, but I think it's more of like NA has a ton of teams there and OC has less. You're going to value OC1 over in NA4. This could be 2 regional seeding at the fall split, or maybe it's just, hey, minor region should get a little bit of a bump there because NA has so many teams there anyway. Not sure the exact reason, but they gave OC1 the 9 seed. NA4 got the 10 seed. Again, you could say they're both 9.5 seed. It's not the end of the world. Then you move on. You got Renegades. They will get the 11th seed because of their game differential. Move on. Furia and Team Envy. Same exact scenario. Exact tie. They went with Furia being Sam 1 over in NA5. Like, I could see it. Like, I don't have any arguments with it. So, like, yeah, sure. Why not? So Furia 12. NA5 13. Then EU5 14 with Vitality. Then you got Sam 2 with Era at 15. And then finally we end up with APAC, who went 0-9. So they get the bottom seed. So that's how we seeded. Let's move back over. So that's all the reasoning right there. As we move up, so your perfect groups are a little bit weird, right? We have to make some swaps. I think most importantly, you can swap things around and still have favorable groups. I think the thing that the esports team really wanted was even groups, with seed value being 34. The other thing that they really wanted was like international play. So we're not going to have like the group D that we have here is insane. We're not going to do that with 3 European teams. And why you even fly in LA? Just play in Europe. Like, what's the point of coming out if you come in last in that group? Because we all know that OC2 wins that group every single day of the week. So, got to swap things around. I think the most important thing to me personally was splitting up. So you have 4 NA teams. You have them all in different groups, and then you throw the 5th in with someone. Same with EU. There's 5 EU teams. You want to have them in every single group. One group will have 2. Personally, I don't want like a 2-2-1. I would rather 2-1-1-1 just to make it more international. So that's basically what happened here. So let's go through the swaps. Not many swaps, to be fair, compared to our normal perfect winter regional thing. Like, I'm not saying that is perfect. I'm just saying that is what we use, because I know people have arguments about everything. So that's not what I'm trying to say. So our swaps from what we use in winter regionals are as follows. We swapped NA3 and EU4. We swapped right here. The 8 and the 7 seed right there. We swapped this to... I'm sorry, this doesn't move NA into each group. We didn't need to write that. But that's fine. It doesn't matter. It's more to keep the top 2 seeds internationally. Sorry for that typo. I had some other team over here earlier. So that's mostly to keep the top 2 in international play, right? So let me just erase this. Bam. Look at that. Beautiful. So it's more actually, I'm sorry, for Europe to move over. So that was actually my typo. Sorry. Now that I'm looking at this, because I did this very, very quickly. There you go. So it moves an EU into each group. I was just focusing on NA, so my apologies there. Moves EU into each group. Into each groups. Typos are going to happen when I make this video in 2 seconds. Keeps the top 2 seeds international. And that's something that I want to talk about. That was kind of like a benefit to what we were doing. I don't know if that was on purpose necessarily, but I really, really like it. It's like when we look at the perfect, or not the perfect groups, but the final groups, the international for like the top of each group is international play, right? EU1 versus NA, or then NA versus EU, then NA versus EU, then EU versus MENA. So the top of each group on paper would be between those teams, and that keeps it a very international flavor, which is nice. So that's an additional reason compared to also just moving EU into each group, because there's no EU team in Group B. Moving on, you got APAC and SAM2. You swap these guys, 15 and 16, just to weigh the groups evenly yet again. So here we moved 8 and 7, so this group would have been 33, which is more powerful on paper than Group B. So you move over SAM2 and APAC to kind of right that ship. So that's what happened there. So you move those, and then our final groups for Group A and B, with just 2 swaps, nothing too crazy, is EU1, NA3, NA4, APAC. Then you got NA1, EU4, OC1, and SAM2. So that's Group A and Group B. Moving on. Let's go back over to the SAM side of things, or the Group C side of things, with SAM in it. I was looking at them. MENA and EU3 is a swap. See right here. Now, again, this is mostly like Group D would never happen. Right? Why would we do this? Why would we have them fly out there? So we got to move some Europe teams around just to avoid the 3-team EU group, and also to put an EU team in each group. You swap MENA and EU3. Again, what that does, though, is move a 5th seed into Group C. Makes that group a little bit harder. So you swap EU5 and NA5. And now so we're swapping 2 EU teams from the 3-team group to make a 2-team group. That's still fine. It's not a huge deal, because one of those groups has to be a 2-team group. So that's where you swap that, EU5 and NA5. And it gets one NA team in each group as well, because that didn't happen here either in Group D, because obviously it was all Europe. We needed to spread the love for NA to move over to the Group D land. So those were the 2 swaps. We had even the group weight out there, and we also had to move an NA team over. It solves 2 problems. So pretty simple. That's how you got Group C and Group D. NA2, EU3, SAM1, EU5. And Group D is EU2, MENA1, OC2, and NA5. All weighted to 34. And that's how you got these groups. And again, if you want to see what the perfect groups would have looked like, it would have been a little bit weird having DIG, BDS, and EG all in the same group. Just small tweaks, like nothing too crazy from what we've been using in the regional play. And then everyone's going to have a grand old time. It's going to be good. Here are the seeds again if you want to look at them. Here's the swaps. You know, I don't know if people want to screenshot those. I have no idea. We don't have the groups with the swaps, but that's fine. Whatever you guys want to do. It's an untitled spreadsheet. I just made this, so there you go. That's why. I was just making it up. So those are your groups. Pretty simple. If you guys have any problems with it, go talk to my lawyers. No. Yeah. I don't think there's anything really to be mad about. Like I heard a lot of people. So it's funny. I see on Reddit like a lot of people saying the Group B is free for NRG, and then on the other side you have Mr. CJ with Renegades was just like, yeah, we have like the hardest group. We have the number 1 seed from last time around in Sam. We have the number 1 seed from Europe last time around, and we have the number 1 seed from NA. And I'm like, hey man, every group is a group of death here. There's really no two ways about it. I think a lot of people are saying Group A is insane. That if you're queso, that you should be upset. I don't understand that because I think NA is free. It's the land of the free, so queso should easily win that group. But, hey, what can you do? But that's it for me. That's why the groups are the way they are. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Hope you enjoy the LA Winter Major. It's going to be a grand old time. You won't want to miss it. Sometime later in March, like 24th, 25th, something like that. I can't remember dates anymore. So go check it out. We'll see you then. Goodbye.